Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Just glad to see the turnout and just really want to take a few minutes. Thank you guys and gals for getting on and just want to take an opportunity here real quick just to address a few issues that, have been coming up. And, one of the things I know, people have been, talking about quite a bit, is, my, why I'm running and, why I chose to, break away, as a staff rep, from the caucus. You know, just to put it plain and simple, as I tell people, I've just hit my breaking point and I'm just fed up. I mean, I've spent, I've served at every local this union, for over 20 years now. I mean, I was a 5-term committeeman, shop chair, you know, uh, very outspoken leader, stood up, stood against tier two in '07. Was protesting, plant closings in 2009. Really, I felt like at the local level, I had done everything I could do, being from out of state and stuff, and really kind of seeing how things were in Detroit as a negotiator. I was offered the opportunity to come on staff, and I really thought it was a way for me to be able to, affect change at a higher level for our members. And it's been an interesting walk. 10 years on staff, and I would say, I was on staff less than a year, and I was starting to question some things. And, I was told back then, when I was asking some people, like, it just seems like some of our people are way too friendly with the company. I was told, don't make decisions, quick decisions based off, temporary decisions based off permanent circumstances. And, they would tell me, wait till the next election, things are going to change. And so, it's interesting because it's, after that point, I've been through 2 national elections now. And, basically what we've seen is, several of our leaders indicted and, copying plea deals and, and the membership continuing to suffer. And, I'm just fed up with the system, how it works. Our system of convention elections, it doesn't work for the membership. Always been an advocate for one member, one vote. Was very glad to see one member, one vote get put into place finally, so we can shift, put the power back into control of the membership. This is the one aspect of the election, the one aspect of our union that the IAB can't control, although they're doing a good job of flying all over the country right now, trying to make appearances and, control it as much as they can. But at least at the end of the day, everybody gets a ballot and they get to go in and cast it, and no one will know how they cast it. So that's the beauty of this. All you got to do, you look at the monitors report, the most recent one here in July of 19. These aren't my words; these are the monitors' words, and it's amazing to see the disparity of what President Curry and the IAB say versus what the reality of what that monitors report says. If you haven't read it, I highly encourage you to check it out. Um, when the monitor states, when President Curry took over, that there was a turn for the worse as far as how things were going, between the monitor's office and our IAB. And, to the point that they said that, they were actually concealing corruption with an AD. And it's inexcusable. I mean, I don't even know how, after all the things we've been through, what our membership's been through, how the hell anybody in our leadership could even contemplate not taking corruption straight to the monitor. It's beyond me. So um, I don't know, somebody's got their mic on, but as I said at the Meet the Candidates meeting, during the week of the convention, it's just, we find ourselves at a crossroads, and it's really, this comes down to 2 options. I mean, we vote, for the IAB and their caucus, and and they keep following the company union philosophy, or we elect new leaders, and and we get people in place that want to fight for our members and get back to setting the standards. So I mean, it's no more evident in the last 10 years. We've been on one of the greatest economic runs, in our nation's history, and companies are rolling in record profits. And 15 and 19 should have been a time for us to get a lot of those things back for our members and secure a lot more work. And obviously, uh, you know, uh, our leadership fell way short on that. And um, so we have to get back. Bottom line, the last 10 years through that run, I mean, hell, we've seen more and more plants close. We've seen plants spun off. And basically, our leadership has basically their course of action has been to offer buyouts or retirements or transfers to other plants. I mean, that's not a winning combination. That's not a winning philosophy. There's been no action. So we've got to get back, when our jobs are threatened, when there's product not coming, we've got to strategically hit these companies where it hurts and, stop letting them whipsaw locals with lesser agreements. And, we got to get back to where we set the standard. I mean, and give people a reason to want to be a part of this. My grandparents, this union was born out of a depression. I mean, my grandparents, 3 of my 4, two are GM retirees, one's a Chrysler retiree, that came, they were dirt poor in the Tennessee and Kentucky. They came north to live the American dream. They got a UAW job and they realized that we don't set the standard anymore. And that's a shame, and I do want to say this, I'm very proud to be endorsed by UAWD and of our Members United Slate. It's been real interesting to watch, as the convention went on, a few weeks ago. UAWD is, a diverse group of people from all sectors of this union, and they're reform-minded people, and it was interesting to watch the convention and watch them and other reform-minded delegates, raise issues. And, one of the UAWD members raised the issue of starting, strike pay on day 1 versus day 8. And, but the interesting aspect of that is, in true fashion, anytime you're outspoken, anytime a group gets together, the IAB goes into the fear and scare tactics, and they villainize UAWD. I mean, they were labeling them dividers and destroyers. And one of the other candidates made a comment about, UAWD's out to rewrite the Constitution. Well, first off, anyone that knows the Constitution knows you can't just rewrite the Constitution. It has to be approved by the membership. So one group, one party can't really do that unless you're the IAB. It's interesting too. I've heard people say, "Oh, there's only this is an IAB slogan, but there's only one UAW." Well, yes, that is true. I mean, there is only one UAW. UAWD is not trying to replace the UAW. It stands for Unite All Workers for Democracy. It's trying to unite everybody, so we come together and we take this union back. And this is our union. I mean, it's pretty simple. But the interesting thing in that argument to me is, to me, there are 2 UAWs right now, and there have been for years. There's the IEB and there's everybody else. The only dividers, in my opinion, have been the IEB, and that's how they keep their power is, they divide and conquer our members. This is our generation's shot at taking back the union. With 1 member, 1 vote, we have the control. It's the choice of our members now. So, and that choice is, again, that's what this election is all about. It's pretty simple. It's either following the same path or it's electing new leaders and charting a new course where the membership comes first. So I thank everybody for getting on. We got 66 people now, so it's climbed a few more. So I'll just look forward to questions. I'm going to open it up. So ask everybody to be respectful and appreciate everybody taking the time. So let's get it rolling.
Yeah, thanks, Shawn. All right, so Brian Shack has had his hand up, and then we have Scott next on stack. So those are the 2 people in line right now. Brian, you want to go for it? Come on camera if you can.
And just so you know, I've got a pen here in my hand because sometimes I got to write when people talk just because that's a habit. So.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm driving right now. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah. Yep. I can hear you.
Okay.
But...
Very good. Okay. All right. I don't know if my video, whatever. Anyway, we met briefly at the convention.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the fact that, you're challenging your boss. I give you a lot of credit for that. I think that's, it's inspiring. That's got to be difficult for you to work in that work environment, but I believe you're going to tough it out. So my question is this. I come from a large amalgamated local union in New York, local 259. I'm the president for it. I'm in region 9A. I have 80 units that are all throughout Long Island, the downstate region of New York, some Connecticut, some New Jersey. So our resources are our resources. And I've been, searching for a way to not only strengthen my local with economic resources so we could have staff and develop staff to do the work that a local union should be doing, such as grievance handling, arbitration, NLRB, DOL, collective bargaining, everything. That's what we do at my local. But also for other amalgamated locals all across the UAW, because I'm a firm believer that the power of the UAW is within the local unions. And because so much of our per capita tax goes to the international union, the locals are not in an economic position to really fight for themselves and to service their own members, and they're hat in hand to the international union. And therefore, that's where the IEB invokes its power over the locals. So I would love to have the opportunity and to hear your thoughts on what that could look like. Perhaps if you were president of the International Union, would you be willing to sit down with amalgamated local leaders such as myself from all across the country and figure out ways that we could exercise the language that's in the current Constitution on special arrangements? And you know, we're not looking for a handout. Well, we're looking for a hand up. We want to build a program that we could develop, organize at the local level, because let's face it, the international ain't doing it for us. We have to do it for ourselves if we're going to rebuild this union. So I'll stop there in the interest of time. And
Yeah, no, thanks. It's really a good question. And I really, this comes back to priorities again. And, it's education. And I talk about my walk as a rep. When I first got elected, I wanted to make a difference when I ran for committeeman the first time. Honestly, I didn't know what the hell I was getting myself into. And I got elected, and I tell people about that oh shit moment I had when I got elected. And the first day I walked in the plant, when I went through the turnstile, it was like, oh, what do I do now? And no, there was not a how-to guide. There wasn't really a great training program for stewards, committeemen, elected reps. And so, I literally spent a lot of time just trying to learn the job, and it's a shame because, if we, I don't want to use the word groom, but if we had programs where, we're serving our newly elected leaders, we're serving our members where, we need to educate our members and bring them along to create the future leaders, of this union. And so to me, it's about priorities. And, when you look at the international level, and funding, we have to invest more in organizing, but we also have to realign staff, in my opinion. I think we're heavy in some areas, maybe not in others. And so, when you get to educating members and stuff, to me, we have to get, if I'm elected, like I want to have an administration, a group of people from every sector where we, like almost like a cabinet where we sit down and talk about these areas, these sectors, and actually get out and we work with locals. We work with local leaders, but not just work with them. We also run programs with members, because we have to bring everybody along. We have to teach them, their contracts, where they're going to live in the contract. It took me a good one term just to learn where I was living in the contract most of the time. Rather than just reading everything. And the grievance process. Even to this day, we get grievances that, are not the best written grievances. And I don't blame local leaders. I don't blame members. That you can't blame them for what they don't know. They're trying. But we have to do a better job of training and teaching people and assisting them. And, when they send grievances up, we've got to put more focus on making sure it's proper and helping them rather than turning them down and shifting them back, teaching the appeal process. A lot of our members don't even know about appealing grievances, and a lot of our local leaders don't. So there's a whole scope of things there that we have to work, with our locals, and not a top down, beat into their heads, but where we make people feel comfortable that if they call, they don't know anything, that we're there for them. We've got to work with our locals and really bring our members and our next generation of leaders up. And that was real evident. I'll close with this. If you watched the convention or you were at the convention, if you saw, it's a shame there's 508 international staff reps, between IAB and everybody. And if you watched every time people were calling point of order and different things, the leadership was turning around to one of our retirees, Rick Isaacson. Rick's a brilliant guy. He's been retired for a few years and was a good guy. But I mean,
Yeah.
You're telling me out of 508 people, we have to bring a retiree in to be able to understand Robert's Rules of Order and how to conduct a meeting. That's just the epitome of how we failed to train people and bring them along. So, that's something, like I said, it's priorities we have to get in line, and definitely something, I want to address as we go forward.
Thank you. All right, next person.
Can you hear me, Shawn?
Oh, Brian, did you have a follow-up comment? I think we're going to try to limit those because we have 4 more people in line to ask a question. If that's okay. All right. Thanks, Brian. Thank you for your question. Next up, we have Scott.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Shawn, thanks for taking my question and questions from members. So my question is, how do we stop the bleeding? Our membership is continually dropping. We're down to 379,000 members. And right now we're looking at EVs, which don't require as many workers to put together, as many parts. There's fewer moving parts. And the companies are working on these joint ventures that are going to try and keep us out of the master agreements in the auto sector. So what's your plan for rebuilding the membership of our union? And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Scott. I mean, joint ventures drive me nuts, number one, because the majority of the joint ventures I've ever been a part of, don't work out favorably typically for our members. I've witnessed, several plants, that were combined with somebody else, and eventually they end up closing, shutting down on top of the standard of living going way down. But, again, it goes back to priorities, and this is, it's a big frustration. With our future work, and that's like I talked about earlier, and I'll bring up Chrysler alone, but it's not just a Chrysler thing. It's IPS, it's Ford, GM. Look at GM, they lost several plants last contract. Chrysler's lost several plants. And I look at our situation right now. We got Belvedere Assembly Plant. They're on a life support right now, and in all likelihood, and talking to their shop chair, they'll probably be, after the first of the year, who knows if they'll even be called back to work. But, it's not because of a lack of product. Product's been allocated all over the place. They're just not awarding it to those plants. And so, unfortunately, our leadership hasn't fought. There was back in the 90s and mid 90s, the last time, we went on strike for product, it ended up resulting in 2 plants being built. That's the last time at Chrysler we struck for product. And it's not that, you want to go out and strike every day, but my God, at the point, if we don't protect our jobs, protect our work, that's got to be the top priority. It's one thing if products eliminated and there's nothing coming in a pipeline, but there's a lot of product in a pipeline. We've got, I'll bring up Belvedere Assembly is on life support. Toledo machining plant has been a 10-year progression of losing jobs. And, you have to have 20 years seniority to even hold a job there right now. And they're on life support. Yet, Norwood Jewell gave away steering columns and torque converters that they should be making. You take Mount Elliott Tool and Die was sourced. They're closed in all effects, even though they don't have closing language. You take Marysville Axle, they were spun off. You take Trenton Engine, who's going to have one building now that's going to be converted to a warehouse. And the sad part is, in all of these examples, the leadership didn't one time fight the company or challenge it. And the sad part is when they spun off ZF, although there was no action taken throughout the years that it took to go through this model, when they spun it off to ZF, they then struck ZF because they wanted recognition for the new workers. So we'll strike to get recognition for new workers because we want members, but we won't strike to protect the damn jobs we have. So it's priorities, and we got to get our priorities in order. We've got to get back to a union that fights. That's what built this union. again, going back to the Depression, people wanted to be a part of this because they saw a better quality of living, and they saw, something, better, that they wanted to, like I said, they want to be a part of because they actually fought for their jobs and they knew they had protection. I mean, our members right now, it's horrible. I mean, I feel horrible knowing what's going on and knowing there's work out there for them to do and we're not getting it. And then you go to EV. I mean, GM already made some agreements are with the UAW on, the subsystem rates and stuff, which, that don't just set our, if your objective is to get to work, that's one thing. But if the rate of pay is 32 and you agree to 22, hell, by the time you get it back up to 32, it may be 10 years. And then then you're that far behind of where you were, 10 years before at $32 an hour. So we're always playing catch up. We have to follow the master agreements in this work. And, you look at Kokomo, Indiana, where they just announced a battery joint venture for Chrysler. And it's not even union at this point. And, at the point that they make that announcement, they're going to do this and they're not going to involve the UAW. I'm sorry, but to me, our response should have been, then get ready because we're going to hit you where it hurts and we're getting that work. I mean, the way it stands right now, if that plant goes up as it is, as a joint venture, if the transmission plants derate and lay off, our members don't have rights to those jobs. So we have to fight. That's our livelihood. That's our life. And if we're not going to fight for our jobs, then we're not going to survive, period. So that's where I think, myself, I greatly differ just in a philosophical approach of the current administration or IAB. I mean, they follow that company union philosophy. They want to work together, and working together don't work, not for us.
Thanks, Shawn. All right, next up we have Jamonte.
How you doing, Shawn? Can you hear me?
Hey, how you doing?
All right, a lot of the members for my local and the local next to us, Local 51, they're not seeking answers to how would you run the local. They're seeking answers to some of the accusations that have been made. Would you mind answering a couple of accusations, or at least one that I can clear up when I go back and talk to them?
Yeah.
Okay, I invited a guy on to ask, but he wasn't allowed on. His name is Keith Potter, and he keeps hammering around the plants about these conductor jobs or something you have something to do with. Or could you explain that so I can go back to the membership?
I had a lot to do with it. I had a lot to do with stopping it. The conductor initiative was simply, it's an amazing story. It's sad, and it shows how out of touch our upper leadership is. I mean, Norwood Jewell, we were in 2015 bargaining. The issue of conductors was never even talked about, never even heard of it before. We come out of bargaining in, November, December. And I believe it was March that Norwood came to us and said, hey, there's something the companies want to do. It's called a conductor, and we want you guys to go over and take a look at it. I mean, and actually JNAP, Jefferson North Assembly Plant, your plant, we flew to Italy to see this in play, at one of their plants for Fiat Chrysler. And, it took me, we were there for 2 or 3 days, but it took me one day to understand that this was not going to be good for our skilled trades. The idea behind it was they would basically take production workers and relabel them, reclassify them as a conductor, give them $1 an hour more, and they would do a lot of basically troubleshooting and stuff inside the cells with robots, and PLCs are going to train them up, basically taking away work that skilled trade workers do. And we were there for 2 days, and in 2 days of walking that plant, I saw 2 skilled tradespeople. So that was enough for me to see. When we came back, I went and met with Norwood and said, I can't support this. I'm not going to support this. This is going to eliminate thousands of jobs. And so Norwood was adamant about it. It became a big fight, and I'm very proud of our skilled trade group, on staff, because people need to know this. I mean, our skilled trade group on staff was unified in opposition of this, and we worked with local leaders, with local committeemen, and got a drive going where locals submitted petitions from all the locals, from all the members, took them to the president's office, and at 2 Chrysler council meetings, It was unanimous. Every freaking member of the council at 2 different council meetings stood up and told Norwood Jewell they did not want this conductor initiative, and Norwood kept trying to push it. And it was pretty obvious to me and to everybody at that point that he cut a deal somewhere with somebody, and he was, because he just kept pushing. But luckily, with working with the local leaders and from all the locals and stuff, we got it stopped, and that's the end of it. I don't know anyone to say I was not a part of that. I was opposed to it from day one, and we had. I was told that he wanted to demote me, but it wasn't allowed. But he did demote another person for it on staff, and and it's bullshit, just to put it bluntly. And but our staff was unified against that. I mean, so and worked with the local committeemen and the skilled trade groups, and those guys led it. I mean, they did a great job of. Again, that's what we should be doing. That our leadership need. And the real struggle for me in that whole thing was the fact that we contract. There was nothing in our contract about that, and it wasn't even 3 months after the ratification that this issue came up. And that's the first thing I told Norwood. Like, they should have addressed this in bargaining, number one, and if they wanted to talk about it, but we would have gave them the same answer. But they did not go through. So I don't know where the confusion is on that. Norwood Jewell was adamant about it. The rest of us were against it. So.
Okay. Thanks so much for that question. Sorry. Okay. Next up, we have Barry. Sorry, I'm hearing a little bit of background noise. And yeah, so if you know of anyone who's having trouble getting on the call, we're letting everyone on. So just try to ask them to try again. It might be a technical error. Thank you. Larry, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, Shawn. I'm retired from Local 140. My biggest worry is that the membership does not understand how hard we're going to have to fight to get rid of two-tier. And my second biggest worry is that the existing staff is going to interfere with things you try to do.
Yeah, one thing, it's got to be real clear to our members. I mean, I look back to my grandfather at Chrysler from, and my grandparents from GM, but I remember my grandpa talking about 1950, 51 when they struck for 110 days to get pensions. I mean, our members have to understand, if we're going to address the tier 2 issue and, some of these other issues, pensions and, job security and things like that. I mean, we've got to. It's not going to be a 2-week strike. Anybody that believes that, I mean, you might as well understand that if we're going to take these things on, the companies aren't going to freely give it. So we're definitely going to be in for the long haul. But I mean, it's worth it. At the end of the day, we have to prioritize and say, what do we want? And if that's our objective, we got to do what we got to do to get there. It's not going to be easy by any means. And as far as existing staff goes, I'm kind of, I know a lot, I don't know everybody on staff, but I do know a lot of staff, and there's a lot of staff that, they're there for the right reasons. I think what has to change is the leadership at the top, and that's a big reason why I'm running. I cannot stand. I mean, our leadership operates out of fear and coercion and intimidation, and it's sad to say that in a union environment, and we claim about we're a democracy, but if you do not go along, and I've been given that who do you work for speech over and over, and the president or the VP, they expect if you work under them that I tell you to do it and you do it. You don't question it. And if you do question it, there'll be hell to pay. And, if I get elected, that's going to change. I mean, I pray for the day, I could be president and we run a convention, because I'll tell you, the only staff that'll be in that damn room will be the ones that are on the IAB up there at the podium. Everybody else will be out. We're not going to have staff out there bullying locals and shoving people around and saying, put this, get up and say this, here's your hand-fed speech. that's what's wrong with this union. We can't say we believe in democracy everywhere except in our own politics. And, and that's got to change. So I think a lot of staff would jump in line. I think a lot of staff want that. I just think a lot of them have been beat down over the years, and they know the system, and that's all they've experienced. And until they see different, it's not going to change. So that's why I'm running. I want to change that. And so, and yes, there are some staff that are just flat out should not be here. So there are some things that need to change there also, but that's my, that's my response to that. So I appreciate your question though, but definitely good points.
All right, thank you, Shawn. Next up, we have Martha.
Hey, Shawn, how you doing?
Hey,
I'm
good.
that retired from Local 869, Chrysler Stamping, and member of the UAWD Steering Committee. I remember in 2009, GM strike lasted 6 weeks or so, and after all that sacrifice, we still got, in a lot of ways, a crappy contract that really didn't address the multiple tiers in our contract adequately. The long progression that is even longer if someone starts out as a temporary or a supplemental and then takes 3 years or more just to get the second tier, and then it's another 8 years to the top. That's still intact. There's a lot of things. I couldn't see really where there was a contract that I would want to sell to my members if I was in that position. And what do we need to fight for next year? And what is the strategy that will actually get us in a good place as far as these big three contracts, which still have an impact far beyond the three companies and impact what all of our locals are able to achieve, and even other unions can win. Thanks.
Well, I mean, the equality among our members has to be first. I mean, they're eliminating the tiers. I mean, that's got to be a huge, that's got to be one of the top issues. Again, we can't keep on this path of having multiple layers of people doing the same job for different layers of pay. We got way too many temps. We've got, people that take 8 years to get to full pay. We've got, traditional employees that, have pensions and all that. I look at, even in our retirees, I mean, we've got to do some things for them also. But, when you look at, to me, how we got to approach bargaining, I have some different philosophies on how I would like to do some things. I don't really want to divulge a lot of it, just to give the companies a preview. But I mean, we have to hit the companies. Let's face it. Every time we go into bargaining, what do? They bank product for 6 months to a year, and then if we go on strike, they just wait it out. And typically, they know we're going to be on strike for so long, so they're covered. I mean, strategically, we have to hit these companies. We may not take everybody out. Maybe we got to hit them strategically at some certain locations. Maybe we strategically do some things, within the confines of the agreement before bargaining. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways we can go about softening these companies up at the point when we're in bargaining. We can affect things. I've never been a big fan of, extending the damn deadline. I mean, everyone knows the deadline September 14th. But every contract, we wait, we're bargaining, but we're going through the motions for 2 months or a month. And then we get to the 14th and then there's an extension. And then, the first company goes and then we wait on them. And then, maybe the second company goes, whatever. I mean, that doesn't work. I'm not, as a president, naturally, I'm not going to make all those decisions by myself, but we have to, we have to get together. We have to get a lot of people's heads in the room and get our heads around the priorities and then a strategy and have a real strategy that's going to be effective so that we can hit these companies where it's painful for them, as it is for our members. I mean, and I'll tell you in 19, this is my opinion. I don't know this for a fact, but just in watching the prelude to the GM strike, Gary Jones came in and talked to all the different negotiating committees. And I was in the room when he came in and talked to them. And the thing was, he asked a question at ours, how many of you have been on a strike before, and hands go up. And then how many of you have been out more than a week, when a few hands drop. And then how many of you have been out for 3 weeks, and a few more hands drop. And to me, what he was doing was setting the table. And I truly believe this. I believe that strike for GM in 19 was our IEB sending a message to the members, basically, that, you know what, if you want to go on, you think you want to strike, okay, we'll show you what a strike's all about. And we'll watch you sacrifice money and let you sit out there for a couple months. And, and I truly think that's what that was behind it. GM, it didn't affect GM a bit. And, there were plants closing. So if the ideal was, saving product and saving plants, I mean, to me, I'm trying to think of the right words for this. I just don't buy that, how it went about, because I don't believe the intent of that was to fight the company and save work. I believe that was an orchestrated plan to let our membership feel the pain of a strike and hope that it would affect it down the road. I mean, that's my take on it. No one told me that, but that's what I think I saw. So.
Great, thanks for that question. Next up, we have John Adkins.
Hi, thanks. Hi, Shawn. Shawn here.
How you doing?
Good. How about yourself? I had a question.
Where are you from?
I'm from Macungie, 677. That's in Pennsylvania. I had a question about the campaign of Will Lehman. He's a rank and file worker, also running for president. Yeah. He's also a socialist. He advocates for the forming rank and file committees in opposition to the entire apparatus, the entire leadership you're talking about. He says that the entire apparatus has to go, with workers, workers taking control. So my question is, what are your thoughts about the fact that, he's a socialist? He's saying this is a question of capitalism. And do you agree that what Will says regarding that the production of these various companies should be controlled by the workers themselves, and not on the basis of profit, but on the basis of what workers need? And secondly, what is your opinion about the forming of rank and file committees to take power from the apparatus that we keep hearing about? You keep mentioning what they're doing behind the members' backs. What's your thoughts on those things? My question. Thank you.
Yeah, hey, that's a great question. And I was just making notes as you were talking. So, I've watched a few of his videos, and I mean, I get the frustration and but to me, abolishing everything isn't going to fix this union. It's not going to get us on the right path in a quick, in any short time. That would literally take years. I 100% believe in worker groups and worker committees. And I've spoke about this before that, if I'm elected, I fully expect, I want to have almost, basically a cabinet where it's made up of an advisory committee that's made up of rank and file members off the floor, not handpick people, not the recommendation of a director or, I want the people, I've been an outspoken leader for years. I was labeled a dissident. I was labeled this and that as a local rep. And, so I've felt that, and even as a staff person, I felt that, that pressure and that alienation, that they put towards you. We have to listen to everybody, and we have to have people with dissenting views in the room. And that's the sad part. I guess that's the travesty of this union. If we're going to have leadership that leads from the top down and just one guy barks out orders and everybody follows, it goes back to the old adage, if everybody in the room's thinking the same way, then somebody's not thinking. And that's the problem with us. We have to have diverse opinions. We have to have, members off the floor to me, that involves them. It shows them value. It shows their opinions valued. They take that back. I mean, and that's what we got to have. So I'm 100% for, involving worker committees. I'm establishing, committees among every sector, but also even as a president, having, advisory committees that are made up of rank and file members. I mean, the IAB, the IAB exists. The IAB is there for a reason. Someone's got to lead these departments in these areas. And so anyone that would say they just want to eliminate all that and abolish it, I think, would be foolish. But I do believe we have to have, committees of rank and file people that that are leading us in the right direction of where we need to go. I mean, I'm from Chrysler. I don't care what president you vote for. They're going to know their area. They're going to know where they come from. That's going to be their wheelhouse. It doesn't mean I don't care about TOP. It doesn't mean I don't care about higher ed or, IPS. I care about every job's got to matter. And we got to fight the same for every damn job in this union, no matter what sector they're in, and no matter, how many members they have. It doesn't matter. We have to fight. And so, that's, how I look at approaching this. I've watched Will. I think, Will's, he's got his opinions, and, so I just disagree with the idea of abolishing everything. I just think that's not a realistic approach. But involving rank and file 100%. I mean, we've got to go that route. So that's, I guess, all I have for that question. But.
All right, thanks for that question. Next up, we have Paul Brown. Go ahead, Paul. And yeah, everyone, please remember to say your name and your local number when you're coming on. Thank you.
Shawn, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, well, I'm Paul. I'm from 2710 in New York. My question was, in light of the news from a couple weeks ago about the NLRB sort of ordering that the United Mine Workers from, I forget the exact company, but pay back like some certain amount, like $13 million. And so I guess I'm curious to hear your take on that. And I'm also curious to hear about how you plan, yes, Warrior, thank you, how you plan on sort of addressing the fact, or I guess working with the fact that sure, this Democrat appointed NLRB is certainly more friendly than a Republican appointed one, but it still is at the end of the day not necessarily working in our interest. So I'd love to hear your sort of strategy on working around that.
And I've got to apologize. So I didn't catch. So the mine workers story. I don't know that story. So what were you saying happened?
It was the Warrior Met union in Alabama. Basically, was ordered. They had been on strike for a long time. I think like 10 months, and they were ordered to pay back the bosses like over $13 million for like quote lost wages and unmined coal.
Okay. Well, I mean, all of this ties back into, those issues with NLRB. I mean, that's critical as to why, who we elect, in national elections, they have consequences. I've always voted, traditionally, on a Democrat philosophy of being a labor person, but, I would be remiss to sit here and say that I feel like, working class voices are represented by either party. I mean, it's a struggle. Our political system's been, basically put on sale with, Citizens United. So, you've got billionaires giving hundreds of millions of dollars to candidates, and, naturally they're getting what they want. They're getting legislation they want. And meanwhile, the working class continues to suffer. And, and both parties are just as guilty in that aspect. I guess what frustrates me with the Democrat Party, I mean, I was I was just going to say this, I was a Bernie supporter, but what frustrates me, I guess, with the Democrat Party is just the fact that, at election time, they're always here for our backing and our support. But, when you look at, enacting laws and really pushing laws, where, we have card check recognition and different things that really support unions and back unions. I mean, that's we've got to get they've got to put their money where their mouth is. I mean, I hear the talk a lot, but when it comes to action, it's the same thing. I mean, it's a lot of lip service. So I don't believe the Republican Party is going to put labor-friendly people on the NLRB. So that's not an alternative. But this country is very much. I will say this about the right wing. They've done a masterful job of convincing working class people that they have their interest in mind. And I don't know how, but and it's got to change. But, I've been an advocate for years. I really think, we need to take harsher stances in political arena and not just give an endorsement blindly to party politics and stuff because they show up at our door wanting handouts. And, I mean, they've got to prove it, and they got to prove it with their action, not with speeches. And so, I mean, when you're talking NLRB, I mean, to me, that's the only way this turns around. I mean, because it's political appointments. And with all the judges that got put in place, the last several years, I mean, we've got our work cut out for us now. We have to, if we're going to go on strike, I mean, we have to. I mean, we've got team of attorneys and a legal team, and we've got to make sure, our ducks are in a row. I mean, because that's, things like this are going to happen. Companies have, their billion-trillion-dollar companies, and I mean, they've got unlimited resources in the legal realm, and they're going to fight us in the courts if they know they can get favorable rulings. So we've got to really, that's when I say about strategically hitting companies, we've really got to have our ducks in a row and, make sure we've got a Loctite setup when we do this. So I appreciate that's a very good question.
Great. Yeah, thank you. I'm just looking at the time. We still have 7 people to get through. So if anyone really wants to ask a question before the 90 minutes are up, I'd suggest you get your hands up now, and we'll try our best to get everyone. So next up we have Ali. Go ahead. You're still here. Did Ali hop off? Okay, maybe Ali isn't here anymore. If he comes back, we'll go to him. So then after that, we have Vale. Go ahead, Vale.
Thanks so much, Lisa. And thank you so much, Shawn, for having this Q&A. This is really a great example of how to run like a ethical and transparent campaign, and it makes me really proud to support you. I really appreciated your last answer about how we need to demand more from politicians, even if they say they're on our side, and also our very own union, that really matches up. I'm a member of Local 2320 here in Texas. And one of the things I wanted to ask about is the team that you're running with. I think it's really great that you're running as part of a Slate. And, because I think the kind of change that we're all hoping for can't really be achieved by just one guy. So I'd love to hear more about how you're planning to work with the Slate. And thanks again.
Yeah, that's if we're going to take on a power establishment that's been entrenched for 80 years, an individual can have so much impact, but it's going to take, a united front and a united effort to really affect change in a hurry. At the end of the day, the membership has to get behind it. So at the end of the day, as long as we keep one member, one vote, I think eventually those things can work themselves out. I mean, my bigger fear in this is that, maybe one person or two people, possibly get elected, and then the current IAB keeps a majority in there. And, next convention, we find ourselves with a agenda where they have their, delegates that they've, strong-armed or intimidated, and they'll go back and vote in a convention system of elections again. And then we're done. I mean, we're back to square one again. And so, the Members United Slate, I mean, it's exactly what it says. It's members, it's rank and file people, getting together and, to make a difference for our members, to affect change. I mean, and it's experienced people. I mean, and what I love about our Slate is, it's diverse. You know, the top positions are diverse among men and women, African American, you know, and Latina and white, and then also diverse in the aspect of when you look at you know, people like Brandon and Dan. I mean, they're younger people, you know, that are, you know, I've been around 28 years. So we've got to have a good blend of people that, you know, come from different walks, but also different generations. If you look at the current IEB, their slate, I mean, every one of them could retire tomorrow if they want to. So, you know, they've got a different vision. They've got a different philosophy that they follow. And so, you know, I think it's really important that we highlight, you know, the Members United slate and the fact that, you know, it's about one thing. It's about bringing our members together. It's about addressing the needs of our members in every sector and also in every generation. So, you know, I'm really proud, you know, of the people that stood up. I mean, you know, and you know, as a slate and also, you know, UAWD, they really combed and talked to a lot of leaders from a lot of different sectors, trying to get, you know, people to step up and run, you know, for VP positions and regional directors. And so, you know, but at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of people, I truly believe, I mean, it's this system of this oppressive system we're in, and knowing the repercussions typically when you go against an established system of power like this, you know, people are scared. And so I'm very proud of the people that are on this slate, that, you know, have stood up, and, you know, got people in a good blend, people with a lot of experience and people that are, you know, getting involved now. And so I really look forward to this. And I think we're going to, you know, if people get out and vote, I think we win this thing hands down. It's going to come down to the ballots. And I think if you look at our agenda and what we stand for, our agenda aligns with where our members are, no matter what sector you're in, versus the current power system of the IAB, where it's their agenda and you jump in line. So, you know, I appreciate that question, and definitely look forward, you know, to how this is going to go down. So.
Thank you, Vale. All right, next up we have Maisha. If I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yeah, it's Maisha.
All right, thanks.
My name is Maisha. I am from Local 12 in Toledo, Ohio, Toledo North Assembly. So my question to Mr. Flynn, is it Flynn? Or Flynn?
Fain.
I want to make sure I'm pronouncing it. Okay, Fain. Okay, so
No problem.
You've worked alongside of the current IEB, and you made mention of the things that they're doing, which are unacceptable. Are you willing to go toe to toe with them when it comes to issues that are being had at the different plants? One being, I don't know if you guys know or anything about Toledo North Assembly. We do currently have a problem that we had talked to the union about. We don't know if it's been addressed with the company or so about catalytic converters being stolen in our parking lots. And these are of union members that are currently working there, where they have to come out and find that their cars are being sabotaged by whoever is doing it. We've brought that to the forefront. But as far as problems like those, are you willing and able to work with our local UAW to go up against the company, or find ways to go say, hey, you know, when it comes, or talk to the company and say, hey, you know, these are our members' concern. This is what we're dealing with here. How can we fix this? Are you willing to really stand up against them when they say no, or what are you going to give me in place of me helping you? What are you willing to do that stands above what our current IEB is doing or has not done?
You know, honestly, that's a great, I'm really glad you asked that. And it's really a great observation on your part. And this is something that's really, it drives me up a damn wall with our leadership. And I've seen this, actually, I was talking to some of the higher ed people at the convention, you know, where leaders were going up to people and basically trying to shame them for like speaking or asking questions. And so this is a prime example. We work for you. I mean, this is so backwards. Our system is so upside down, because this hierarchy system with this IAB, they expect that everyone should worship them, and what I say goes, and and you should just toe the line and do what I say. And we work for you. So like I brought up an issue recently where we started at Chrysler. We hadn't arbitrated a case in over 5 years in the Chrysler department on the national level, and we recently started arbitrating cases in the last few years, and we were successful in a few of those. And so it's almost like we had success with that, and like we wanted to tout like we're arbitrating cases like it was something extraordinary, and it's like we have this backwards. That's our job. That's what you pay dues for. So when you have issues at the plant, it's our job. You pay dues for us to respond to that. You pay dues for us to get involved, to work with local leaders, the region, however we got to do it to make things happen. So, and you shouldn't have to thank us for it. You shouldn't, we shouldn't come into you and say, hey, I did this for you. You owe me this. Or, hey, you had a grievance and I took care of it. You owe me something. No, you don't owe us anything. You pay dues, and that's what you pay dues for. So that's, again, it's just a change in philosophy and a difference in philosophy of having leaders that believe in serving the members and that the members are in charge versus leaders that think they're in charge and everyone should just accept what they tell them. But it's a great point.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I hope that.
it's like I said, it's just it's not just me that's wanting to know. Like I said, it's our members, because we're greatly affected
Oh, yeah.
by this, and it's the fact that the company
Yeah.
still want us to come in and make these cars, and we're not safe going out in our own parking lot. It says a lot. It
Yep.
says a lot.
Yeah.
So, but thank you for
Definitely.
answering your question.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Maisha. Next up, we have David Pillsbury.
Hi, Shawn. First things first, I'd like to offer my deepest condolences to everyone at 5960 over that tragedy today. What do we do about worker apathy? It seems like most members don't want to get involved, or they're not allowed to get involved. We seem to gatekeep local committees. We green shirt to say, these are people are taking over. And then when it comes contract time, we sell ourselves out for this mythical signing bonus that offers no long-term gain. What exactly can be done about that? I feel like the signing bonus is just a way to, buy a contract. The first one I ever saw was $3,800, and since then we've gone up, to $12,000. And I thank you for doing this tonight.
No, it's a great question. And I mean, worker apathy, I go back to, again, looking at my grandparents' generation, they damn near starved to death. And, the unions formed back in the 30s and 40s and really grew. And it grew because people saw the difference and they wanted to be a part of something. And I understand, because we're hiring temps. The only way, big three, the only way in anymore is as a temp worker. And so, and there's no limit on that. There's no limit on how long. GM, put in their agreement that, 2 years, but at the end of the day, they can, if you're laid off 30 days, you start over again. So they can keep you on for a year and a half, lay you off for 30 days, and then you're back to square one. I mean, at Chrysler, we don't have a defined period, but, so it's hard, when you talk about worker apathy, how the hell do I feel valued or feel like I want to be a part, or I am a part of something, when I'm coming in for 3 and 4 years, busting my ass, working on the line, making $16.60 an hour, and somebody with 25 years is making $32, and they got a pension and everything else. I mean, it's hard. I don't know how I convince that person, hey, come to the union and be a part of this, and this is great, isn't it? And and tier 2 people that got to go through an 8-year progression. I mean, to get to full pay. I mean, that's it's almost a third of your, when you talk about a 30-year career or a 30 and out type thing, when I hired in, I hired in at full pay. I had a pension. So I was able to start saving money right away. So I was able to get ahead in life. You know, our workers now, whether they're a temp or whether they're second tier, they can't get ahead. They can't start a 401k and save money when it's taken them 8 years to get to full pay. So, you know, that's where I get to where, as a union, we have to show them a different way of leading. We have to show them a different way. You know, we have to fight for them. We have to get results for them. We have to fight for every job and make them, you know, so they believe in this, so they want to be a part of it. I mean, we're not going to bring people on board when all they see is us continue to lose jobs and hemorrhage jobs and plants close. And you can go to a car wash down the road from me right now and get full time at $17 an hour. I mean, what the hell's the incentive for me to go in a factory and bust my ass all day for 12 hours? And I'm a temp worker, but I'm working 7 days a week. And when I can go to a local car wash and make $17 an hour and spray water on a car. So, you know, and, you know, the signing bonus stuff, I mean, you know, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, you know, it's almost the point where members expect it now, and it's nice to have that bonus. But at the end of the day, you know, with an $11,000 signing bonus like last time, what could we have got in place of that? You know, could we have eliminated the 8-year progression? Could we have, you know, addressed pension issues? I mean, there's, you know, could we have got, you know, raises for retirees? I mean, there's a lot better places for that money to be spent than just $11,000 handout it's going to pay off some bills, maybe pay off credit cards or something, and then we're right back to square one again. So, you know, I don't like signing bonuses. I mean, I like them as far as it'd be nice to get one, but at the end of the day, it's more important that we focus on the big ticket items, eliminating tiers, you know, job security initiatives and stuff like that. So, and I have no problem as a leader staying in front of people saying, hey, I'm sorry, you know, we're going to have to fight like hell to get these things, and at the end of the tunnel, there may not be a signing bonus, but damn it, you're going to be at full pay. You know, we're going to fight for pensions, you know, secure retirements, you know, post-retirement health care, things like that. So those are more important than a signing bonus. You know, so it's frustrating to see the worker apathy, but I understand it because look at our leadership. Our top leadership's been complacent for 30 years, and that complacency, because they got theirs, has breeded basically workers that just say, screw it, no one cares about me. So, you know, we've got to change that mentality, and it's only going to change if we vote the current people out and put new leaders in. That's our only rule. That's our only option. And, you know, if a member wants change and they're fed up and they're tired of it, this is their out. They get a ballot and all they got to do is mark it. So I appreciate that. Though it's a good question, great observation, and I totally feel what you're saying.
Great, thank you, Shawn. I'm still seeing a lot of people left with their hands up. So, you know, if you're
I'm good though. I mean, let's keep rolling. I mean, I want to, like I said, let's do it, you know.
all right. We'll see how many people we can get through. Rob Foster, you're up next.
Hey, hi there, Shawn. This is Rob Foster, Local 12 Jeep Unit out of here, Toledo, Ohio.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yep. Hey, good.
Hey, I met you at the delegate convention, man. You seem like a pretty stand-up guy.
Yeah.
So it was pretty awesome. Met you with Sam Price, if you recall. I mean, I know you met a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm gonna be pretty specific in what I would like to see as far as organizing, because coming from the Chrysler department. So we're going to talk about a specific thing that I think would help on the shop floor, and something I've been passionate about for the 9 years. I'm very low seniority, been there for 9 years. Page 193, 194, obviously other pages of like team leaders and how they're selected and what they do. And you mentioned already on shop floor, where everything comes from the shop floor. I'm a big fan that the team leader has a huge role in education and teaching and guiding and giving information, because we're teams out here at Jeep and we have 9, 10, 12, maybe 20 people. Well, they go to the team leader first, and then they go to the steward. So the team leader needs to be as much union as possible. And what we're doing is we're breeding them. And I was one in the beginning. I was bred to be company man. So I think it could be kind of across the board into all the big three, maybe into higher education. I'm not sure about that stuff. That's way out of my realm or knowledge. But what would your take be on, or how would you approach to unionize classes and teach these team leaders that, okay, yes, you have the knowledge and skills to help out, but you're a union brother. You're not a company. You're not a yes man. You have to grow from grassroots. It has to come from the bottom up. What might be some avenues you might address that kind of stuff to help the locals out and some of the team leaders and things like that to be more unionized? Yes, we have union awareness classes. We have Region 2B. We have Black Lake. But it comes from there. And if you can't, it kind of goes into the conductor thing, because a lot of team leaders think they can just go up and reset a button and reset a box. And they do it because, well, keeps the fucking boss off my back. It does this. Who gives it? So I'm specific kind of to that, because that would help our grassroots. That would help our shop floor and start growing.
Yep. You know, so team leaders is a real explosive issue. You know, and I agree 100%. You know, the team leaders have been, you know, used a lot. I don't know who got back. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, so you know, this goes back to, in my opinion, you know, when I talked earlier about a company union philosophy. I mean, you look at when joint programs were initiated, you know, coming out of bankruptcy in 1980. You know, I truly believe joint programs were a well thought out, well designed plan of the corporations to basically not immediately, but over time, brainwash our members into believing that, you know, the company's their friend and that we're a team and we're working together and we're all in this together. And, you know, the unions went along with it. I believe, you know, initially with joint funds, and I guess we all saw what the result of the joint funds is over time. I mean, literally billions of dollars have flowed through the joint funds over the years, and we know where we ended up with that. You know, there are good programs, I think, out of our joint programs, such as EAP, things like that, you know, health and safety and all that stuff. But when we're talking about team leaders, you know, yeah, we've got to lead as a union, and we've got to abandon this company union philosophy and supporting company programs and get back again to setting the example where members, again, they see the benefit and they want to be a part, and they understand, you know, when they go to work, the union's got their back. I mean, you know, I look at our membership, and, you know, on one end, you've got people that are just angry and pissed off at the world, and no matter what we do, they're not going to be happy. We got on the other end a small group of people that are, you know, company minded all the way, and you got the 80 or 90% of the people that they just want to go to work every day and do their job, and they just don't want to be messed with. They want to know that if something happens, that the union's got their back. You know, we've got to, when I talk about educate, you know, we've got to come up with real training, real educational programs that are impactful at the plants, you know, bringing members off the floor to Black Lake or wherever, you know, to let them experience that, but also, you know, to give them the reasons why, you know, especially team leaders, you know, why they've got to have a union background, a union philosophy, and understand that they're not management. And I'll give you an example. I dealt with, you know, 2 fatalities at my plant as a committeeman. And one of them, it was a machine operator. The guy was 22 years seniority, was a great operator, knew his machine like the back of his hand. And management was out there for months, you know, telling people, hey, you know, don't wait on trades for this. You can adjust this limit switch. You can do this. You can do that. Well, you know, this guy, knowing his machine, he knew this limit switch was acting up. And so, you know, he ended up, the machine went down like twice. So he went out there and, you know, he told one of the guys, hey, I'm just going to try this one more time. If it doesn't work, we'll call the trade. So the guy goes out there. As soon as he moves that limit, the machine closes up and crushes him and he dies. I mean, you know, he did what management told him to do. And he was a damn good employee. but he didn't understand the potential behind what he was working with. And that's where we get into trouble with this, because we've got some damn good team leaders that run them lines that, and really, but we've got some that, are just company all the way. And, and it's going to lead to, injuries. It's going to lead to fatalities. So we got to abandon this company union philosophy and get back to our roots and let people understand. And they got to have pride in this union. And that to me is going to get us back. If we are going to have these programs, I don't even know that I'm really a big supporter of teams altogether, honestly, but if we have to have them, then we have to train our people to act accordingly. And if they aren't, then we need to remove them. But you hit a great point though, and that's definitely, like I said, team leaders are a big issue. They're a big issue in our council meetings. And one of the program we used to run, was we used to run the paid educational leave program, or we call it Pell. And we got to get back to Pell programs. I find it interesting that when joint funds paid for the Pell program, we were all about it, and we'd run it all the time. But when the companies didn't want to cover Pell anymore, in the joint programs, it just went away. And so those are programs to me that we've got to get back and put back in motion, whether we've got to fund it or not. That's where we got to direct our resources, so that we have educated workers that understand why we need unions and why it's important. But overall, we've got to lead it from the top, and we've got to show people that they matter. So, I appreciate that though, Rob. It's definitely a good point and good question. So.
Well, yeah, thanks, Rob, for that question. Next up, we had Glenn. I don't see him on the call anymore. We'll get to him. Zach is next after Glenn.
Hi, thanks. Hi, Shawn. My question for you, my name is Zach Valdez. I'm a member of Local 2110 in New York City. So I'm not in auto, I'm in higher ed, I guess you'd say. I'm a administrative support staff member at Columbia University. And I just wanted to come on because I thought that Shawn Adkins had an interesting question that he asked earlier. And I know that he asked about Will Lehman and rank and file committees. And I agree with you that I don't think, while I may not be in the auto sector, I don't feel like the answer here is to explode or abolish the whole system of the UAW. But I also think the more time I spend and hear from people who work in these sectors, I understand why people are angry, and I'm sure that you do too. And I learned so much hearing about people's rage and understand maybe why people would be so outraged, and I'm outraged on your behalf too. But I wanted to ask, thinking about Shawn Adkins' question made me wonder about accountability. And I know that you alluded to the many different ways that we could get members more involved across all different sectors of our union. But I guess I wanted to ask you pointedly, what are the things that you will be doing for members to actually make yourself accountable to the entire membership? And also, because there are multiple candidates in this race for president of the UAW, what sets you apart in what you're willing to do to make yourself the most accountable president? I guess I want to ask you in this race. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just making a note real quick. No, good question. And so, the one thing, as far as accountability goes, we have to engage our members. And when I say that, it can't just be, if I'm elected president, I mean, it can't be just me showing up at a region and meeting with the regional director and, touring a plant and waving at people and shaking a few hands and moving on out and saying, yeah, I was at, or going to Columbia University and saying, hey, I met with their people and, said hi and shook hands and went on down the road. Hey, I was there. I supported you. That's not support. Support is getting in there and having meetings and understanding the issues and what the problems are. I mean, talking to Brandon and Dan, about Region 9 and 9A and some of the issues, especially with higher ed, what an excellent job you guys do at organizing. And what's awesome about higher ed, and what I've seen so far, is there's so much energy. And it's like two different dynamics. You come to auto and the big three, and it's, this tired old system, and, a lot of people that are complacent, a lot of leaders are complacent. And then you go out in higher ed and you've got these energetic people that are, they want to affect change. And so we've really got to we've got to put our money where our mouth is. We've got to give resources in areas like higher ed, where organizing is where they can really be effective and organize a lot of people and bring more people in the loop. But one of the biggest things I want to do if I'm elected is, I don't know the exact structure yet, but I am adamant about having like advisory committees and setting up, meetings where I go into areas and meet with sectors. It's hard when we have conventions and you've got people from every walk of this union, because, we have diverse issues. And so, we really have to, address sector-based problems and really get in and meet with rank and file people off the floor in the sectors and really hear the issues and really come up with solutions on how we move forward. And I don't have all the answers. I mean, I know Chrysler, I know Big Three, I know auto very well, IPS, but if I walked into a meeting at top, I would need help. I'm not going to go in and say, here's what you guys need. You guys got to tell me. And so, as far as accountability goes, I was a 5-term elected rep in my plant. And, to me, the first way we get accountability is we keep one member, one vote, because with the convention system of elections, there is no accountability. I swear to God, when I came on staff, at the time, Tim Bressler, who's actually the caucus's candidate for vice president of Chrysler, the first thing he said to me was, he said, you know what the best thing about these jobs are? And I said, no, what's that? And he says, you don't have to run for re-election every 3 years. And that was a bold statement to me, because, like I told him, look, I don't mind running for re-election. You do your job, it takes care of itself. So I think, one member, one vote is the biggest key to accountability. But in showing accountability, I can tell you all day I want to do these things, but at the end of the day, I got to deliver. And if I don't deliver, then you shouldn't support me next time. I've really enjoyed meeting a lot of higher ed people at the convention. They're younger, they're passionate, they have great energy, and we need that in this union. And we need more of that. I think we need to put more resources into those areas and bring more of them into play, even at the national level. We've got, 508 people on staff. I would venture to guess that there's a very small number of them that are from higher ed or top and stuff. So we've got to have more balance in those areas so that we have a more diverse outlook. What separates me apart from other candidates? President Curry and I think it's just two entirely different philosophies. He's out of the company union philosophy. They don't fight. End of the day, we have to get back to a union that is militant, and that when we have to be, and that we fight when it comes to protecting jobs. You look at the monitor's report, like I said earlier, I'm sorry, but there is no excuse. I don't give a damn what's going on. If I'm in leadership right now at that level, if my best friend's a vice president or something, if he is, misappropriated money or something, and we got a monitor overseeing us, I'm not going to conceal that from the monitor. I'm sorry, but the monitor is going to know. We've got to be, in Ray's words, transparent, and they're not. The monitor was very clear about that. All you got to do is read that report. So, so we're very different in those aspects. As far as, Keller goes, look, I was a 5-term committeeman shop chair at my plant. I've bargained locally. I've bargained nationally. I've been a national rep for 10 years. I fought the good fight. I haven't got what I wanted a lot, but at the end of the day, I'm authentic in who I am. I wouldn't trade the experiences I've had for nothing. And that matters. I mean, the presidency is not an entry-level job. And, as far as Keller goes, he doesn't have the experience. He has no negotiating experience. And, you can't just walk in a room and MF everybody and call them names and think you're going to get anywhere. Will Lehman, I've just watched his videos. Like I said earlier, I mean, I don't think the answer is basically blowing up the whole establishment and starting from scratch. There are some good things in our structure. We just have to refine it and realign our priorities. And then as far as Mark Gibson, I don't know him really that well. I've had one conversation with him. I mean, he's done some good work at his local from what I understand, but I can't really I don't know him to give you any input on the difference in me and him. So, I appreciate the question, and so hope that was sufficient.
All right, thanks, Zach. Next up, I have Stephanie Riley. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Unmute. Sorry. Hi. Thanks for having this tonight, and thanks for taking my question. My name is Stephanie Riley. I'm from Local 598. And one of the things that concerns me is the accountability to our leadership, because it's been a long 6 years for me as a trustee, because I am new to politics. Well, not so much anymore, but I've appealed elections when I've seen the rules broken blatantly. I mean, not just our rules broken, but the laws broken. And I've taken it all the way up to the public review board at times. And it's very frustrating to me because, for one thing, they drag out the process. 2-3 years you wait for it, to get your final answer. And secondly, I think it's a broken system because it's all the good old boys. I mean, you don't have a prayer, and that's just the harsh reality of it. What would you do to ensure that the members' rights are protected and that we're not able to be bullied any longer, and that when we know that our rights are not being protected, that we have a way to fight? Because right now I don't feel like we do. And the answer usually is, it wasn't going to change the outcome of the election, so we're not going to honor your appeal. And that is bullshit, because that's just saying it's okay to break the rules as long as it wouldn't change the results of the election. This is just one example, but I'm just saying, there's no way for anybody to be able to know that, because once the members know that they weren't following the rules, it could change the whole game. So I just want to know if you're aware of these things and what you would do to change it.
So, one of the things, I've talked about with a few people is, if you look at, when I talked about, training local leaders and training, members on the floor of our grievance procedure and, the appeals process and how it works. I mean, obviously, how it works. If you've been to the public review board, I mean, that's good. Most people don't even have an inkling that they have, an appeal process, when they get a grievance answered, and we don't openly encourage it. I don't say we, our leadership doesn't openly encourage. When you get a grievance back, it doesn't say, hey, you have a right to appeal this to the PRB or whoever within 30 days. I mean, they just hope that the grievance goes back and no one catches it and it just goes away. Those are things we have to change. I mean, we've got to lead, and we've got to lead for the membership. Again, I go back to this, our members pay dues. We work for you, and this whole system is so upside down, and it has been for years, because our leadership, again, expects to bark orders, and you jump in line, and if you don't, then I'm going to make your life a living hell. There's no excuse for that. I mean, at my local, I would have people come in when I would, deal with issues and stuff. And I would encourage them, like when if they'd be mad, if I couldn't get what they wanted, I'd say, look, call the region. I mean, I want you to go outside. If they tell me I'm wrong, I got no issue with it, brother, because that's what I'm here for. I mean, I'm not going to be offended if I made a bad decision. You know, and unfortunately, I mean, we're so, our leadership and that system is so ingrained with top-down rule, and I am the ultimate authority. Again, I got to go back to this. I mean, that's what this election is all about. I mean, our Members United Slate, it's what we're all about. I mean, is putting control back in the hands of the membership. It's not going to change unless we put new people in power. And I can guarantee you, I mean, if I get in there, that's one, I don't make promises and guarantees and whatever, but that is one thing that I'll say we have to address is just, you know, I've seen this at Chrysler, you know, when I had grievances, you know, someone would appeal it to the president's office. And I mean, a lot of times it seemed like the appeal process was more or less just trying to justify the decision that was made prior to that, rather than taking a totally different look at it and you know, saying, hey, what if maybe this was wrong? Maybe you looked at this incorrectly. So, you know,
I mean,
we just have
it's
to be
just
authentic.
obvious things that the things that our local does, it's obvious. I mean, there's no question. And they just say, oh, well, it wasn't going to change the results. And they know it's right.
One thing I'll say for you, though,
but it's just, members at our local just don't even want to be involved anymore because there's just so much backhanded crap going on.
And that's where we got, I mean, we've got to, you know, hopefully you get out there and you stress to them, you know, I mean, this is their shot. This is their shot to, I know they're frustrated. I mean, I feel it. And they got to know this is their one chance. Mark them ballots, you know, and let's affect change so we can, you know, and if we don't, you know, one thing I'm definitely going to do. I mean, I don't want to entertain going back to a convention system of elections. I mean, so if I'm not doing my job, then vote me the hell out, you know, in the next election. And that's, I've lived by that rule as a local rep, but I have no issue living by that rule. So, you know, and I applaud you, and don't, you know, the thing is, it gets frustrating because you feel like you're a person on an island. I've been there.
You do, because
know,
it's always letters back and forth. You don't get to be present except for at the original hearing. And then you got to wait for a letter. And then the letter they send is completely inaccurate. So you have to write a letter back. I mean, it's not a good system. It needs to be more like a court system where you're in the jury, you know, there's a jury. And I mean, I've been thinking about this for a long time, but anyway, I just wondered if you had any thoughts on it. I feel strongly about it. So I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, and don't like I said, I mean, just please don't give up and don't quit, because you're the people we need. I mean, you're the type of leader we need. So, you know, it's frustrating as hell. And trust me, I've had my local president when I was a committeeman and shop chair that he fought against me tooth and nail. And it's like, you know, he would go one direction, I'd go the other. And it was frustrating as hell. And, but, you know, at the end of the day, I didn't quit. Thing is, don't give them the satisfaction of running you out, you know, and a lot of people have asked me that, you know, why didn't I just quit on staff? You know, why didn't I come out and do this and that? And look, you know, if I quit, they win. And if I quit, they'll just appoint somebody that'll go jump right in line with them. And so, you know, I'm not going to make it that easy for them. And so I just encourage you to keep up the fight. So I appreciate your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. Yeah, let's try to limit the back and forth a little bit for the rest of the call so we can get through the 9 other.
Sorry.
Okay, next we have
Well, it's my fault. Oh, long.
Go ahead, Brian.
Hello, Shawn. How you doing?
Hey, good. How's it going?
Good. Hey, Shawn. First things first. Respect what you're doing. You're a stand-up guy, and we've known each other for a long time. And you're appreciated by many. I was a delegate last conventions. I will say one thing: convention itself on the floor acting fighting, and that showed a little light, showed a little hope. My question, Shawn, is: I hear a lot of people talk about a special event. Would there be a time if you were to win, call for a special event?
So one thing I want to make sure people understand, because I've heard one of the other candidates talk about if he got elected, he's going to hold a special convention, and address these issues. And just so people know, that's what, happens when you have people run for office that don't know the Constitution or read their contract books that often. I mean, a president can't just walk in and call a special convention. There's two options, and one option is 2/3 of the IEB have to, 2/3 of the board can agree to call a convention, and then they would instruct the president to call it. Or it's the referendum, which you saw with the one member, one vote, where I believe it's 15 locals of a certain size, 20%, I think, of their members have to sign a petition to be able to do that. So, I'm not going to promise anybody I'm going to hold a special convention because I don't have that authority if I'm president. But there's only, like I said, there's two means to do that. And that's either with, if we get, if we elect enough board members, if we elect the Members United Slate, then we have that option. But, or the other option is, like I said, the referendum. So that's really, that's how that, if it's going to happen, that's how it's going to happen. So, but yeah,
Right.
it's a good question. And just want to make sure you understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand it. It's just, I know there's a lot of people that I wanted you to answer it for, because I know a lot of people do not read the and so thank you for that answer. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Brian. All right, next up we have George. And just a reminder to everyone to please introduce yourself, your name and your local. Yeah, go ahead, George.
I'm not hearing anything. I don't know if.
George, you're still muted.
You there?
Go ahead.
Hello?
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Hey, Shawn.
Yeah.
Hey, Shawn, how you doing?
Good. How's it going?
Good. I got a two-part question. Your thoughts on combining the skilled trades? And the second part, do you plan on reclassifying the way it was back in the 90s?
As far as combining skilled trades, I mean, naturally coming from trades, I mean, definitely opposed to it. We go back to, unfortunately, bankruptcy. We got a lot of that, crammed down our throats from the government. And I mean, at that point, bankruptcy, big three, it was put down to electrical, mechanical at that point. I mean, we were able to negotiate out of, some of that, in 11, even though we didn't have strike authorization, we got, at Chrysler, we got the most classifications of the big three, but we're still, we're trying to do some things with the classifications to create more. I mean, I know there's been an issue with like trying to get sheet metal back. I mean, but there's also some risk to it. I mean, with some other ones, because like at Chrysler, we got this industrial controls classification crammed down our throats this last contract. Our skilled trade team did not want it, but that was basically agreed to at the top level. And, it endangers us because as far as electricians go, you have to be a journeyman, and satisfy all those conditions to become a journeyman. And when you're this industrial controls, it's not even an apprenticeable trade, or it is an apprenticeable, but the skilled trade department doesn't recognize it with a journeyman's card. So it's, it's enabled the company to hire people off the street that, they're not journeymen. So it's, I'm all for, we created a CMM classification, after, I believe it was 15, we finally got that done. We tried in 11, but so there's things like that we've done that I think,
We just lose you, Shawn.
Shawn lost me.
All right, Shawn, I think you got me for a second.
There he is. There he is.
okay, am I back? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you're back. I caught half of that question.
Okay. Yeah, so we've had some success in bringing some classifications back after bankruptcy, but the latest one we got with the IC, I think that's a huge mistake, and I hope it doesn't go anywhere but the pilot, because the company wants to push it. And that's just Chrysler specific. I mean, but I know Ford also has that IC classification, because that's why we got it shoved up our you-know-what, because we were told it's pattern. And as far as reclassifying, what was your question there?
I have a few of them down here. Do you plan on reclassifying them the way it was back in the 90s?
I mean, I just, being realistic, I mean, it would be nice to, but it'll be a fight. I mean, again, it's one of those issues we'd have to take on where skilled committees and, the skilled committeemen, of the councils and stuff would have to, put forth demands and stuff as far as how they want to restructure it and what they'd want to do. I mean, then we'd have to, act on it. I mean, there's some differences, I think. I believe like GM, and I don't know about Ford. I know GM, I think they got rid of welder repairman, but, we still have that classification at Chrysler. So, there's some nuances, I think, with some different companies, so I guess, we'd have to, approach that from a company by company standpoint and see, what the wishes are of the skilled trade people.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I forgot to mention where I was from. Pontiac 653.
Okay.
I worked at the Milford Proving Grounds.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you very much, sir.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks.
Good to see you on here. Next, we have Robert Bird. Go ahead, Robert.
There it goes. How we doing? Thanks, Lisa. How you doing, Shawn?
Hey, good. How's it going?
All right. Rob Bird, local 685, Kokomo, Indiana. In your backyard, Shawn.
All right.
Yeah. I got two questions. My first question is, if elected, what does your presidency really do for trades? I think that's one of the questions we have on the shop floor down at Tipton, at the Tipton plant where I'm at. And secondly, how do you open 685 up? We're kind of a good old boys network down here in Kokomo, but we don't really have a lot of international influence. So how do you change that?
Well, I mean, first off, I mean, what does the presidency do for trades? I mean, I come from trades, so I mean, and I've negotiated in trades locally and nationally, and I mean, so I'm pretty well versed in a lot of our issues. One thing I definitely say is things that got crammed down our throat this last time, like a 7-day on, 7-day off schedule, and IC classification that made no sense whatsoever, would not happen. We have to protect the integrity of our classifications. We've got to stop the corporations from wanting to basically, attack our work and try to divvy it up, and simplify each step so they can try to push that work off to, production workers, which basically just eliminates more trade jobs, which in effect hurts our production people, because rather than them being able to be mapped into an apprenticeship and get into a skilled trade career, they're not going to have those opportunities if our work's, segmented and then, performed at a lower wage. So, those are some things I think that, having a president or, vice president or whatever that come from skilled trades, I think that'll greatly benefit. And when you're saying, how do you open up 685? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know there's, 4 plants down there with 685. I mean, as I've said before, I mean, if I'm president, I mean, I want to show a different way of leading. And as I've said, I mean, I want to have work committees and advisory committees from every sector. And, I want to be active with the memberships and be active with the members on the floor, not just leaderships, but, so I don't, as far as when you're saying open up 685, I don't know like what you're, like exactly what you're alluding to.
I mean, a lot of things happen locally. They don't, we don't have a lot of international influence at Kokomo.
Okay.
Casting, everything happens really in-house. They don't,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, and we don't, and I think that's kind of a, I don't want to answer for somebody else that's, currently in power, but I mean, some of that may be, that you want to give locals autonomy to be themselves, but you also don't want to give them too much autonomy to where they agree to things or whatever, to where we end up setting a standard somewhere that ends up screwing everybody else. So it's
Right.
kind of it's a fine line you got to walk on. I mean, I want to be engaged with the membership and be engaged with, different sectors and all that. But, so like I said, I mean, I want to be authentic and give people, allow people the means to address their issues, the way they can, but also make sure it coincides with everybody's overall vision of where we got to go, so, there's a lot of, we've seen it over my career. I'm not sure how long you've been, with the company, but I mean, you see,
47.
okay, well, you've seen it then. I mean, with, you go back and think about, when Dundee Engine put in with that GEMA agreement, and then that agreement filtered its way to Trenton Engine and then Kenosha, and it was all under the guise of, you got to do these things to survive. They still closed Kenosha anyway. Trenton's losing a building right now. So, we've got to really be careful in allowing whipsawing and things like that to happen somewhere. And then it ends up, 32120 in 2003 started at Mack Engine. It stayed there for 9 or 10 years, and then it blew up all over the place. And so, so we got to be very cognizant of those things and very careful in allowing stuff like that to go on. So,
Okay.
I appreciate reaching out. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Robert. All right, next we have Mike Hodgen, and you might have seen the announcement in the chat. I think some of us need to eat dinner and whatnot, so we're going to wrap up at 8. So if you're asking a question for the first time, we're going to get to you, and then we're going to wrap up. So thanks, everyone. All right, so Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm from local 5287 in North Carolina. Ray Curry is our rep, was one time. What do you think about him being on DTNA council, getting paid, representing us at the same time? That's a conflict of interest to me.
Being on what?
Do what now?
What do I think about him being on what? Getting paid?
DTNA council. The German council board.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
And then the 34% raise y'all got in the last 4 years. No contract that I ever seen has got 34% attached to it. Are you willing to go back to original, what y'all had before the 34% raise?
Yeah. So let me be clear on two things. So first off, the position of, the president being on, boards for companies. I mean, honestly, I've never really understood what the hell that does for us, because, if it's a board of 10 people, 20 people, or 30 people, I really don't see, it's basically just a position. It's not anything of any influence. I mean, he's not going to walk in a board meeting and wield all this power and influence where they're going to be shaking in their boots. So I don't see the benefit of it. Number one.
Paycheck.
And then as far as the pay goes, I want to be real clear. So I think there's some miscommunication as far as like international staff. So international staff, they followed the GM pattern after last bargaining. So the staff was given 2-3% increases and 2-3% bonuses, just as like the GM employees were. That's typically the pattern they follow. But the IEB, the International Executive Board, so the president, VPs, the regional directors, secretary treasurer, they came up with this after they negotiated with the staff council for the staff to get the 2-3% raises like GM did. They came up with this alternate system they put together that they concocted up, where they did it off a percentage of staff pay, and that's what led to them getting these 30% increases. So it's wrong, shouldn't have happened. It was an underhanded deal. And again, it goes back to this convention system of how we do things. They got it passed at the convention because they strong arm and they, scare and threaten people if they don't vote a certain way, that there could be repercussions. So that to me is what the epitome of this election's about. We've got to use this one member, one vote and elect new leaders so we can change this stuff. And I know, like I said, I know one of the other candidates has been vocal about saying he's going to have a special convention. I don't know if you were on when I talked about that with the other guy that asked a question, but the president doesn't have that authority. There's got to be 2/3 of the board to call a special convention if you want to change those things, or the membership has to do it through a referendum. So those are the two ways that a special convention could happen. But if it doesn't, when the next convention rolls around, I mean, one thing I plan on doing if I am president, there's way too many staff in that room, and the regional staff typically sit in their regions, and they're the ones going up to their elected delegates and stuff, pressuring them to put forth the things they want them to put forth. So one thing I definitely want to change if I'm president is staffs other than the people that are at the podium or sergeant at arms, staff needs to be off the floor. That way there's no interference. And I want to have a true convention where resolutions come from our members in the plants and we act on their business, period, not on our agenda. So, but I appreciate your input on that. And I definitely understand your frustration with it.
Yeah, thank you for that question. All right, next we're moving on to Ryan. Go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, Shawn, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, so it seems, I should introduce myself. I'm from local 1250, Ford Cleveland engine plant, but it seems like UAW members care more about quality than the big three do. In my plant specifically, we point out potential quality issues, and nothing usually gets done until it causes an issue in the field.
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, the issues lie with the company choosing the cheapest vendor they can.
Yep.
And not only makes the companies look bad, but makes the union look bad. What can we do to hold them accountable for quality?
So here's a big thing that it just pisses me off to no end. These companies preach about quality being number one. Of course, they preach about safety being number one too, but we all know that's not true. But they talk about quality being the priority for our us to get profit sharing and all these other things. And quality is very important. And I believe you're correct. I believe our members care more about quality than the company. The company cares about quality for one reason, because it'll get bonuses for executives or plant managers, if their quality metrics go up. But the part that really pisses me off is when they launch these programs, every few years we get a new 3-letter acronym of a program that's going to change the world. And, and I'll give you a couple instances at my plant when I was committeeman. They say, we're not going to run scrap. So, a machine starts running scrap, the operator stops it. Management comes out and says, hey, keep running that. They give them a direct order and they tell them to quarantine the parts, just quarantine them, we'll put them tag on them, we'll quarantine them, and we'll address the quality issue later. Well, then, we're supposed to ship these parts to another plant. And guess what happens? We're behind on parts. So what does management do? They go back and pull the tags. They ship the parts to the next assembly plant. And then lo and behold, we have a failed transmission or engine down the road and a quality issue. And then they want to trace the part back to the plant where that part was cast, my plant a lot of times. And they can trace it back to the operator in a shift. And then they want to discipline that operator for running scrap. That's happened at my plant. And, which is complete bullshit. The whole system is upside down there. The operator wanted to stop the machine and was given a direct order not to. We can address those issues, but, bottom line, the company's got to do what they say in these programs, and they don't. And, we've got to hold them and I say upper leadership has to hold them accountable to these things. And if they're not going to, then they need to scrap the whole damn thing. because it does no good to have quality programs that don't address quality. But I agree with you 100%. It's a big issue everywhere. You're from engine plant, and I've dealt with transmissions my whole career. So it's and it's the same, different component, but the same problem. And you look at, corporate wide, you look at the people that are working the most hours for us in assembly plants, it's the repair people. Those people can write their own check. They can work 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. Why can they work that many hours? Because they're running vehicles through assembly that have flaws, and then they repair them at the end, or they don't get them repaired. So it's a huge issue. But we got to get back to the philosophy, of doing what we say. And we've got to hold the company accountable. And, I don't blame local leaders, because local leaders try to address this, but they've got to get support from the national level on those things. Because when they discipline somebody, we should be in there in a minute shutting that down. There's no excuse for it. But thanks for that question, or that point. That's definitely a good point.
Yeah, thanks, Shawn.
Thanks, Brian. All right, so we have 3 people left who haven't spoken before. So we're gonna go Nolan, Mike, and then Bill and Amy, and then we're gonna wrap up. So thanks everyone for waiting.
Hey, Nolan Tab, Local 21, John, Davenport, Iowa. Shawn, thank you for being here for this. I just want to give some context to the question that I'm about to ask, because this one's going to be a little bit heavier. So an article published online in April 2020 from Chris Brooks of In These Times and Labor Notes revealed International Executive Board meeting minutes from a November 2nd, 2019 meeting, which he obtained through constitutional rights under Article 12, Section 19, in which there was 2 votes that were supposed to be had, right? So Gary Jones, it was going to be whether Gary Jones would take a paid leave, and then also the IEB appointing his replacement as an interim president. Because of the conflict of interest, Gary did not have a vote until Chuck Browning made an unusual motion to combine the 2 items, which was seconded by Frank Stugland, to the total opposition of Ron McElroy and Cindy Estrada and Beverly Brakeman, to the point where Ron said that this is complete bullshit. So that gave not only Gary a vote, but it gave him the deciding vote in a 7-6 split, right? So the current leadership and the Curry team solidarity, they kind of portray how corruption's behind us. We've come through it. They've gotten rid of the quote unquote bad apples. Yet you have quid pro quos, buried in these meeting minutes that leaves Chuck Browning and Frank Stugland still on the upcoming ballots. So my question is this: as the next president of our UAW, how will you navigate working with elected IEB members who may have enabled corruption and protected leaders with actions like this?
At the end of the day, whoever gets elected, if it's me and or if it's 2 people off our slate, or 4 people, or or our whole slate, at the end of the day, there are still people from the past IEB that are running unopposed. So, but to me, on day one, once elections are over, we know who's going to be who. If I'm president, I guess we're going to have a come to Jesus meeting on the first day. That's what I call it anyway. Where basically, we're going to have to sit in a room and say, okay, our members demand this of us. Bottom line, I'm laying this out here right now. Anyone that's the shit's going to stop. Anyone that's going to do anything, anyone that's got anything to do with corruption, if anything comes out or develops, I'm not playing. If we still have a monitor, we're turning it over. If we don't, then we'll do it by whatever means we have to. It's shameful to me that, at the convention, they kept pounding it home to the delegates, that we are clean, and they had the delegates even saying it, they're clean, they're not corrupt. Well, I'm sorry. Read the third monitor's report. I can't reiterate that enough to people. When the monitor in their own words says that when Ray Curry took over, things went downhill. That is, it almost takes my breath away to even think of that. I would be ashamed if I was Ray Curry, and that's what the monitor said. And the second thing they said was that they were still concealing corruption, that there was an AD in a region that misappropriated cash. And I mean, I'm sorry, why in the hell our leadership will conceal that from the monitor is beyond me. Those things alone right there, I don't care what these people fly around and tell people. I don't care if they're the nicest people under the planet. They have no business, if that's how they handle things with a government appointed monitor, after everything we've been through, they have no business leading this union. So, again, it's got to come back to the membership getting out there, casting those ballots, and who we're left with. But if I'm president, I'm not going to play around. I mean, this is our membership's livelihoods. And, we've got to get back to where the membership runs this union and we serve the members. You don't serve us. But that's definitely a good point. And, and I don't, that's interesting to hear that because I haven't seen those board minutes before. So that's interesting to hear that.
And just to clarify, if anybody's questioning that, that's the November 2nd of 2019's board meeting minutes.
Wow.
Thanks, Nolan. We'll go to Mike Boltman. Mike.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Shawn. Given the current, 1166, given the current attack by corporations everywhere to limit full-time membership, employment, and dwindle our numbers even more, a big problem I see with the kind of Chrysler specific is the Bell language that was eliminated from our agreement allows outside contractors.
Yep.
We don't have enough people to do traditional work. I'm not naive enough to think I can do every job and everybody can do every job. Continual battle, and I just see it as a way to keep from gaining more members and making our corporation stronger. Yeah, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's, it's a great point. And for people that don't know what the Bell language is, it stands for base employment level. And so prior to bankruptcy, we had language, it was employment security systems. And we had language that was called the Bell base employment level, where at every contract, the company would take a snapshot of the employees. And so through lifetime of the agreement, the company could not go below that level. So, if there was 45,000 employees or whatever it was, they couldn't go below that number. They had to, if they did, they had to pay them, their full wages. So, and the language wasn't eliminated. That's the thing. I think a lot of people out there, the cost of living in bankruptcy and also the Bell's language, the job security language, they weren't eliminated, they were suspended. And that's the real frustrating part of this is, you think those things were suspended when the company were in bankruptcy, that's one thing. But after a 10-year run of excessive profits and all that, there was no excuse in 2015 and 19 that those things weren't brought back in. And that's the frustration. We are so far behind, and we've fell so far behind, with the lack of our top leaders to have the fight to want to get those things back. So we missed two golden opportunities, but the Bell language, like I said, bringing back the suspended job security language, that's definitely high on the priority list if elected. So, but yeah, thanks for that question and that statement.
Well, we're now at the end of our hands raised. I think Robert and Ryan probably haven't put their hands down, but it's past 8 p.m. Eastern now. I just want to really thank Shawn for doing this. I can't imagine answering 25 questions in a row the way you did. So great job, Shawn. And thanks so much to everyone who came on and listened for 2 hours and asked questions. Really appreciate it. So we dropped this link in the chat a few times. Shawn, I'll let you maybe say a couple words to wrap up, but I just wanted to mention, if you're interested in helping out with the campaign, we need your support to win this election, not just for Shawn, but also for the 6 other amazing candidates who are running with him, the VP candidates, secretary treasurer, and 3 regional directors. We can take 7 seats on the International Executive Board, but we need to put in the work. So please sign up to volunteer if you haven't yet. And then Shawn, if you want to say a few words to close, go ahead, and then we'll end.
No, I just appreciate, I mean, it's been good, Facebook, a lot of the back and forth with people. I mean, it's, I've left it open for anybody to get on and comment, and like I said, there's obviously some people on there that are just, on there to stir things up, and that's fine. I mean, that's what this is all about. I mean, we got to be accountable to the members, and but I appreciate this dialogue. It's nice to see faces with names, and just get down to let people see me also and hear me in my own words versus just commenting on Facebook. So look forward to doing this some more, and hopefully with some more of our team, more of our slate, but just appreciate people taking the time out to comment and ask questions and listen. So please pass it on to other members you work with. And like I said, like Lisa said, I mean, we've got to raise money. It's important we get the message out, and that we take this union back for the members. That's what this is all about, and that's why we're all here. So, but thanks a lot.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone. And yeah, as you see in the chat, we just got 30,000 leaflets printed out for the slate. So please pick some up, distribute them in your workplace. Okay. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. We're going to adjourn. We'll see you all soon. Good night.
Thank you.